kilalang-kilala nating lahat, is Mr. Eric Alvia of NAMFREL. He is the Secretary General of NAMFREL, the first election watchdog in the world. So he has developed an extensive knowledge in the country's socio-political climate, particularly in southern Philippines, being exposed to economic development and community governance projects as a former NAMFREL Regional Director for 12 years. So again, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Eric Alvia.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. So go straight to the topic on being a service provider of COMELEC. As you know, in the past few days and weeks, procurement issues have hugged the limelight, not necessarily with COMELEC, but with other agencies, But COMELEC is not insulated also from a lot of these concerns with regards to procurement, especially if there are issues related to conflict of interest, or at least issues related to advantages to be gained when one is close to the powers that be. There is no clear cut and dry rule for COMELEC to be a service provider or a goods provider. COMELEC complies with the procurement law and use as a guidance the procurement law to be able to give access to vendors or providers to avail of the procurement activities. So this is Republic Act 9184, or the Government Procurement Reform Act, or what is known as the Procurement Law, and its IRR, Implementing Rules and Regulations, the amended Implementing Rules and Regulations, which was passed, I think, 2019 only. COMELEC standard is usually done by competitive bidding through public bidding. The guidelines and components of this bidding are provided for in, as I mentioned, the procurement law. An invitation is posted publicly in COMELEC'S website. It's a bulletin board, which can be found in their office in Intramuros. PhilGEPs, which is the Philippine Government Electronic Procurement site, and newspaper, and is open to any company who is interested to participate in the bid. COMELEC rarely uses other methods of procurement, as what they are procuring are common supplies, except for the components related to the automated election system. That's precisely why they have a separate bids and awards committee called the Special Bids and Awards Committee. If you are going to participate in common supplies that are being used regularly by COMELEC, then there's the regular Bids and Awards Committee. These are common supplies, are usually office consumables, services that would require regular use. So this falls under the common supplies area. Now, all bidders who participate will go through a public bidding where their bid proposal would be opened publicly and openly to the observers. So NAMFREL is one of those groups that is regularly being invited to observe the biddings, both on a regular bid activity and also for the AES components. The AES component bidding started as early as last year, around December last year, and it's still in the middle of its bid items to be awarded. So far, with all of those allegations and controversies related to the procurement in COMELEC, one has not to go far. Yung remember those ballot papers and also the folders, no, the secrecy folders, no, in 2010, no. So far, COMELEC has not blacklisted any supplier in the past special bids and awards procurement, no? Because I think the rule for blacklisting is that the end user, no, should be the one who should determine if a supplier or vendor should be blacklisted or not. No, it's not not the GPPB or the Government Procurement Policy Board. It's the end user or the purchaser, no, of the service or good. Next slide, please. Okay. For COMELEC procurement goods and services, it's only when the mode of procurement is negotiated that the procuring entity can invite a prospective bidder under several conditions. No, there are three. No, number one is through a negotiated procurement when two biddings have failed. No, or usually for emergency cases. Uy, maganda to, emergency cases. No, di ba yung face shield emergency case daw yon. No, so negotiated procurement yan, no? Through limited source bidding or selective bidding, which involves direct invitation to bid by the procuring entity from the pre-selected suppliers or consultant. Usually, nangyayari to if there are only a few providers of that service or that particular item that is being procured. No? The method used in procuring these highly specialized items and major plant components where only a few suppliers are available is resorted to by limited source bidding. No? It is also advantageous to limit the bidding to known qualified suppliers to maintain good quality and performance. No? That's precisely why there are issues hounding the current provider of the automated election system, because by this alone, no, qualified nga sila but good quality and performance, that remains to be a contentious point. No? Number three, direct contracting or single source bidding. This method does not require elaborate bidding documents, and the supplier is simply asked for a price quotation. So next slide, please. For COMELEC qualified providers and suppliers, before becoming a supplier to any government agency, obviously the business entity has to be a registered business with the Securities and Exchange Commission and is a PhilJEPS member. No? They have to register with PhilJEPS. No? All legitimate companies interested in supplying the government shall undergo at least one of the several methods of procurement, as I mentioned earlier. The Philippine bidding documents is provided to prospective bidders for all the necessary information that they need to prepare their bids. No? Kasama na dito yung terms of reference, no? And request for proposals first in terms of reference. No? But that, although that's part of the procurement process, what is usually open to the public is only the start of the opening, the start of the bid hearings. No? The crafting of the terms of reference and request for proposals is done internally by the procuring agency or the procuring entity. The bid proposal of the qualified bidders are examined also carefully. No? That's why it's being put out in the public. No? Next slide, please. Now let's go to the list of common items and common suppliers of COMELEC. No? Later, no, I will show you the ones that are regularly being tapped, no, to supply certain items. But in comparison for the 2016 and 2019 elections, no, these are the main vendors, no, of COMELEC. No? Advanced Solution Incorporated for the CCS, no, consolidation and canvassing laptops. No? So ASI, no, is usually the preferred supplier, no, of these laptops. For the automated election system software, election management system, and the vote counting machine and the CCS, the consolidation and canvassing software, is Smartmatic, no? Ever since 2010, no? It's not only 2016, no? For thermal papers, it's also Smartmatic, no? Because they say that compatibility with of the papers with their machine is very important, no? Uh, Secure electronic transmission services. Usually, people think that it's the telcos that is a provider, but no, it's Smartmatic, and it outsources this requirement to the telcos. No? For ballot papers, no, uh, at least this is much more a competitive item, no, wherein other suppliers can participate openly, no. Advanced computer forms, no, I guess you've been familiar, especially if you're running certain business enterprises. Advanced computer forms has been a pioneer in the industry. And triplex enterprises, I think, represents a German security paper firm, no. They won in the 2019 elections as a supplier. Now for iButtons, this is where the digital signatures are being loaded. No, it's like the key held by the teachers. Obviously, again, no, it's part of the component of the VCM of the machine. It's Smartmatic again. No? So vote counting machine, no, batteries. It's even Smartmatic. No, for the deployment of election equipment and paraphernalia, the bid item was divided into 4 lots, no? Of two out of the 4 lots were awarded to F2 Logistics, no? The controversial F2 Logistics, no, of the supporter of, or the campaign contributor of the president, no? Now for the SD cards, no, and worm, no, yung worm is write only, read once memory, no, SD cards, no. It's Smartmatic, but in 2019, S1 Technologies and Silicon Valley was the provider. Unfortunately, this also was a controversial bid item because they won the bid being the lowest calculated bidder, but the thing is, it's supposed to be the lowest responsive bidder because what they presented was a substandard SD card, no, during the actual use, no. Hence, a number of failures of the SD card, no. The iButtons for the EBs also were supplied by Smartmatic. Cargo forwarding services, Air Freight 21, no. So there's only a few, even if you say it's a competitive bidding, there's only a few suppliers really participating in the biddings of COMELEC because again, no, one, it's a specialized requirement. At the same time, also, you have to have a track record, no, with COMELEC, no, with a government agency wherein you have to, I think, have a contract that is 50% of 50% cost of the bid item that you are participating in, no? So medyo malaki requirement yan. Usually the big companies are the ones that are only capable of doing that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, just to understand first why it's important also to go through this process, no. For one to be a service provider or supplier of COMELEC, you will have to go through this procurement process, no, for you to win a contract. So initially, you will have to attend the pre-procurement conference wherein all of the terms, no, of reference and request for proposals are laid out, no. They advertise it publicly. Then the pre-bid conference is held to discuss the details of the item being procured, then that's when, after you are required to submit the bid documents, no? And they're very strict about the deadlines, no? So opening of the first envelope, no, determines the eligibility documents and technical proposal, no, if it is responsive to the terms of reference. And the second opening, no, of those who complied or passed the first requirement, which is the eligibility documents and technical proposal, is are able to proceed to the opening of the second envelope, which contains the financial proposal, or how much a supplier or vendor bidded, no, for that item, no? After the submission of the bids and opening of the bids, it proceeds towards the bid evaluation and ranking, no? So nilalagay na doon kung sino yung pinakamababang nag-bid, no? At the same time also, hindi lang yung pinakamababa, but also the quality of the goods that is being offered, no? Then there is a post-qualification wherein there's a determination also, for instance, of the management of, let's say, a service provider, or even the quality of the goods that are going to be provided. Once the supplier or the shortlisted supplier is determined, the lowest responsive calculated bid determines who is awarded the contract. So ito yung mga stages of the procurement process. Next slide, please. So ito, I mentioned already the Special Bids and Awards of Committee of the COMELEC. It's a special unit constituted to manage the automated election systems related procurement. As I mentioned, this has been the bidding for the items have been going on since December last year, no? NAMFREL's role in monitoring and observing the procurement is to promote transparency and accountability in the procurement process, and NAMFREL has been involved in the oversight for the AES with COMELEC'S since 2010, no? But even prior to 2010, we've been monitoring already the bidding of the items when it was still a manual election, especially yung sinusupply na mga substandard na ink, di ba? Yung indelible ink, no? Yung mga ballot boxes na kuminsan faulty, no? Ballot papers, no, that fade, no? Ink that is not of commercial grade, no? So on and so forth, no? Pens that are not working. So yun, nakikita natin yan, no, during the observation of the bidding process, no? Part of this oversight is the monitoring of the goods and services, no, related to the automated election systems, no? And we are regularly, as a citizens arm, no, we are regularly invited to sit in the hearings, no, of these biddings, no? Next slide, please. For the pre-bid conference, no, usually what is being done is to discuss, clarify, and explain, among other things, the eligibility requirements and technical and financial components of the contract to be bidded, including questions and clarifications raised by the prospective bidders, no, during the conference, no. For the deadline and submission of the opening of bids, the bidders shall submit the requirements and proposals to the bid item and the award committee. The technical and legal requirements will be examined by the technical working group, which will determine the bidder's eligibility, and all eligible bidders and financial proposals will be opened and examined. The ineligible bidders' financial proposals will be sealed, no, and returned, no? And the technical working group will determine which has the lowest calculated bid. Okay, next slide, please. For the post-qualification, the lowest calculated bid with the highest rated bid, no, this is the responsive bid that I was talking about, shall undergo post-qualification in order to determine whether the bidder concerned complies with with and is responsive to all the requirements and conditions specified in the bid documents. If the bidder passes all the evaluation and testing of the samples, and the bids and awards committee will then proceed with the awarding of the contract. That's the only time that it's finalized, no? Pag na-award na yung contract. No? So here's a link wherein if you want to know more about the procurement law. Next slide, please. Okay, I think this is the second to the last slide. Na. So for the 2022 national elections, these are already the ongoing bid items. No, some of them are already awarded. No, like for instance, the printer with toners, no, awarded to Link Network Systems. No, vote counting machine awarded to Smartmatic. No, after the second bidding, no, 660,000. Kaya medyo mura ito dahil this is just a refurbishment of the vote counting machine. No? But if you will purchase the vote counting machines, no, it would amount to almost 8 billion. No? So this is the status, no, of the bid items, no, so far for the 20 NLE. There are red flags. No? For instance, yung red flags in terms of not necessarily conflict of interest, but because probably for improper market survey. One instance would be the logistics provider, no, for the 2022 elections. The approved budget for contract is 1.16 billion, but yet the lowest calculated bidder, no, and the one that was awarded was F2 Logistics, no, at 600,000 only. So almost 1/3 of the cost. So ano na yan, red flag na pala, kaya pala ng 600 million, tapos 1.61 yung approved budget for contract. So that's it, no? That's for the, okay. So, yun, F2 Logistics awarded, no? 1.61 billion, yet yung lowest calculated bid price nila mga 600 million lang, less than 600 million pesos. Red flag yan. Tapos yung another red flag would be the vote counting machine, di ba? Nag-failure ng bid for the 10,000 machines. So dahil kulang daw yung budget for that. So that's it, no? That's thank you. Time's up na daw. Okay. Thank you very much.
Alamin kung ano ang mga kasalukuyang ginagawa ng Participate. Bumisita lamang sa inclusivedemocracy.ph at i-follow ang aming social media accounts.